Rugby team guide to Stade Français, the first of the Parisian clubs. If you're watching these in order, they are in alphabetical order as the top 14 does it, the LNR. Stade Français beginning with S. Why are they before the ones beginning with P? Because they are quite often known in France as just Paris. Stade Français Paris is we call them SFP, or quite often refer to them as SFP. But these boys are the epitome of the Parisian lifestyle, aren't they? Like the pink thing, the Max Guazzini thing. I've not been to Stade Jean-Bouin. It is very, very pink. You can see there that Rich has been to see a Stade Français home game when they were at Stade Charlotte, which I think now hosts kind of like really low level French rugby. But Stade Français, they were pioneers of their time. Certainly on the Max Guazzini, the pink kit, the flamboyant kit. They were. It was kind of rugby started in France, started in Paris. So like the first two clubs and the first finalists for the Brenner Shield were Racing Club France, currently now Racing 92, and Stade Français Paris. Stade Français, like France team, is basically what that translates as. Literally, that's how early on they were kind of like the club at Blackheath, I guess. Immense rich history of rugby in Paris, but they are a bit of an outpost. It is still largely in the southwest, and the whole pink and Max Guazzini and all the kind of wild stuff that they did in the kind of late in the 2000s to kind of grab headlines was to do that, to grab headlines and steal the focus of rugby away from the southwest and highlight to the Parisians. They kind of had to have a shock factor to attract the Parisian crowd, and they still kind of epitomise that. They are, it remains, I know they've been around a long time, they are the second most successful club in the history of French rugby. They are on 14, I think it is, Brenner Shields or top 14 championship wins, so now 11 behind Toulouse, but they are still second. And they've got kind of the flamboyance of the city. We've kind of put a few Paris recommendations in there, tried to work out which might be more suitable for Stade Français, but if you are in Paris and going to watch Stade Français, apparently it is great at Stade Jean-Bouin on if you pick your game right as well, the Classico, or El Classique, or Le Classique, of Stade Français v Toulouse. Apparently that really bumps. They do some really cool stuff after the game as well, with kind of partnering with La Folie Douce and stuff like that. But we've got plenty of Paris recommendations. Check out our Instagram as well. There's a few on there. Or just drop us a comment and get in touch on Instagram. Drop us a DM, and we will get back to you with some of our Paris recommendations. Paris, Stade Français, Paris, the club. Where are they at? There's a few clubs that are really hard to place, and this is one of them. So if you've just watched the Montpellier one, you will have seen that I had them in 6th and Rich had them in 13th. With Stade Français, Rich has these guys in 6th and I have them in 13th. I think that kind of talks more to the league. I think it's kind of a top 4, and then we talked about this in the podcast earlier this week. It's a top 4, throw a hat over the rest, and then Montauban, kind of the new boys. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Stade Français finish 6th. I also wouldn't be surprised to finish 13th. I also wouldn't be surprised to see them have an up and down season. They finished 9th or 10th, where kind of they just bumble along and they're kind of effectively mid-table obscurity, not in the Champions Cup. Why has Rich gone for them 6th? Well, if you've listened to the podcast, you'll know that he's thinking of this as like it's a largely unchanged side from the last couple of years. They've had a really quite quiet transfer window. They made a load of signings last summer. They are very, very close to salary cap. I know that. They've got a huge budget. That is operating budget. Part of that you'd assume will be the fact they are based in Paris. But they are one of the closer sides. If anyone is going to breach the salary cap, it's most likely to be them. They've got a couple of big money players that haven't played that much as well and have underwhelmed. So maybe that's influenced why they are perhaps haven't made loads of signings, but ultimately it's a kind of relatively settled squad from a team that finished 12th last year and just they just missed the access match. They could have been a real threat of relegation. They really were for a lot of the season. But also the similar side to the one that finished 2nd in the league 2 years ago and were actually top of the league for a long, long time. So yeah, like they're hard to work out because there was such a big drop off last season from where they were the year before. The year before, they were the best defence in the league by miles. They won They won the most away games out of everyone, I think. Last season, they leaked points completely. I think they got like 1 bonus point on the road, like 0 wins. They were dreadful away from home. Was that because of there was changes to the coaching team? Karim Ghazal left. He kind of fell out with the players. who's in charge? Is it Paul Gustard? Is it Lauren Abete? Generally, it seems like the Paul Gustard stuff isn't working that much. The fact that their defence went off so much when he'd clearly been a very good defence coach the year before. They're just so hard to work out. They've got some... I feel like a lot of their players are looked at to make those key players in the unsung heroes. Loads of those guys, I'm like, oh, good player, really good top 14 player, really good top 14 player. And then you'd be like, yeah, but maybe he was a little bit better last year. Or like maybe he's starting to get over the hill. Like, Romain Briat was brilliant a couple of seasons ago. Perhaps last year just didn't quite get the right side of it disciplinary-wise. Like a bit of a penalty machine, slightly less impactful ball in hand. Same with Paul Gabriag, like a little bit older, still runs a line out well, can have the odd brilliant game. Jeremy Ward missed quite a lot of rugby last year, and he was actually for the the Nuida Rugby Awards. He was in the shortlist for top 14 player of the season a couple of years ago. Absolutely brilliant, like hard-hitting centre, punches way above his weight physically. He didn't play as much last year. That's perhaps why their defence wasn't as good, because he had a really good relationship with Joe Marchant defensively. It'll be interesting to see if they go for that centre combo again. Joe Marchant improved a lot last year. He was really good. Leo Barre had a bit of a shocker in that third test over the summer, didn't he? But obviously an immensely talented player. On his day, just a joy to watch. You see a lot of the bad side of him for Stade Français. He needs, like, his club form has been... He's lucky to have got those places in the France squad, given his club form. But if he fires, then we've seen at an international level how good he can be. Penny Dakawanga, just absolute X factor. I genuinely think he might be the quickest player in the top 14. He is absolutely rapid. He obviously scored that amazing try a couple of years ago. If you haven't seen it, just Google Penny Dakawanga wonder try. You'll find it. It is phenomenal. But the key player for Stade Français remains the enigma, and he is an enigma. That is Sekou Makalu. On his day, this guy is absolutely unplayable. I remember, like, back when the French Rugby Pod was a thing, like, I used to listen to it, and they used to rave about Makalu, and I just never quite saw it because he didn't play that well at international level. I was like, this guy, like, forgets his hands a bit and, like, makes mistakes, but Jesus, when he's on his game, he is the perfect rugby player almost. Like, unbelievable athlete at line out time. That is the one of the things that is consistent. He just gets up in the air so easily, like, sort of like if he comes off the bench first line out, he'll just win it. So quick, and like, because he's so springy and quick, people forget how hard he hits. Seriously physical, like, sort of player that you see people like running away from tackling him. Like, last season, the Macalunacy, as we call it. We are Macalunatics. We've coined that term as a fan base. Fans of Sekou Makalu, but also there was some Macalunacy last season. He was just some brain-dead moments and a few real bad red cards from him. Hopefully we see more of him. We would love... Like, Rich is always like, when we're making France squads, he still puts him in the match day 23 because versatility, his X factor, just what a player. They did struggle at halfback last year. We thought Louis Carbonel, who is one of those big money like players they brought in from Montpellier, we thought he was going to be handed the reins. When he played a few games in a row alongside Brad Weber, they did look a bit better. I think he then kind of fell away. Brad Weber got injured. Zach Henry came in, kind of a bit of a mixed bag himself. They don't really know who their halfbacks is. Brad Weber's still injured. Tawariko Barlow, if you've watched our video about the best signings of the season, he is pretty much, certainly of the non-French scrum halves, if you wanted someone better than Brad Weber to come in to replace Brad Weber, he's the guy. He's still a fantastic rugby player and would just knit that team together. Maybe he is the missing ingredient for them, and he could like drive them forward and get them back to a consistent level. But the other signings, they're not huge. Like Yukapi Mapu from Northampton, don't know much about him. Thierry Paeva, like, has drifted, I guess, over the last few seasons at La Rochelle as a prop. But there's some of the young guys to look out for are really cool. So Noah Nene, guy that got called up to the France squad, one of the players to watch this season. You'll know that if you've watched our preview video. But was on loan at Dax last year and was absolutely fantastic, like dynamite. Like, we saw him away at Soyunga and he was basically if Dax were going to do anything, it was going to come through Noah Nene. He was just a class above. Really physical for even such a young guy. Sergio Abramashvili, like a 21-year-old loosehead, plays a lot for Georgia. That's cool. He's one to look out for. Setariki Turagathoka, 19-year-old, and already has like a probably double figures caps for Fiji. Like second row, big unit, really dynamic, one for the future for sure. Like so much expected of him. They've lost JJ Van der Mesch, who was a really good player. They didn't really play Raffaele Costastorti, which we couldn't work out. Like they just had so many back three options, and they seemed to pick the worst ones at the worst times. Francisco Gomez-Cadella had a little bit of a renaissance, so that was a really good tight head option, and he had some really good games last year. So a bit of a loss there. Style of play, as I've kind of alluded to, it's hard to pick out because we don't know who's going to be playing in the halfbacks. They were a defence, like hard to beat, tough to break down, take their chances team a couple of years ago, but they were so bad last year that hard to know kind of what to expect from them. It's really interesting. If you think you've got an idea of how they're going to play, please put it in the comments. They've still got that huge budget. I can't get away from the fact that I think they're just going to underachieve. I don't see enough in the signings. I think that squad needed a refresh because it was so bad last year. Not seeing any changes off the field. Their kit launch is amazing, but Stade Français, you expect that. Let me know what you think. Rich is quite positive about them because of their past. Get into the comments. Let's have a debate on this. Let's have a discussion because they're a really, really intriguing team for this season. Thank you very much for watching, and look out for the next Top 14 team guide in this playlist.